The fog draped Cambridge like a mourner's shroud, cloaking St. Augustine's College in ghostly silence. In a cobbled courtyard, Professor Edmund Langley's study glowed faintly, its leaded windows casting fractured light. Inside, the air reeked of old books and blood. Langley lay slumped over his desk, a silver-hilted dagger in his chest, crimson pooling on scattered papers. A crumpled note in his hand read, "The truth lies in the margins." Hercule Poirot, summoned by a frantic dean, surveyed the scene, his green eyes sharp. Who had slain the scholar? The fog held its breath, but the truth would not stay buried. Chapter 1. The Crimson Study. The fog draped Cambridge in a ghostly shroud, its tendrils curling around the ancient spires of King's College like a mourner's lament. The year was 1932, and the air carried the chill of late autumn, sharp with the promise of secrets. In a quiet courtyard off Trinity Lane, where cobblestones gleamed under a thin sheen of mist, stood the Gothic edifice of St. Augustine's College. Its leaded windows glowed faintly, as if guarding the knowledge within. At the heart of this academic sanctuary, Professor Edmund Langley's study was a beacon of warmth, or so it had been, until that fateful night. Inside, the air was heavy with the scent of old leather, ink, and something far more sinister: blood. Langley, a historian renowned for his work on medieval manuscripts, lay slumped over his oaken desk, his once vibrant eyes now glassy, staring into eternity. A dagger, its hilt ornate with silver filigree, protruded from his chest, pinning him to a scattering of papers. Crimson rivulets had pooled beneath, staining his notes like an accusation writ in scarlet. In his clenched fist, a crumpled piece of parchment bore the cryptic words, "The truth lies in the margins." The room, otherwise pristine, whispered of precision, a murder both brutal and calculated. The clock on the mantelpiece ticked with relentless indifference, its hands frozen at 11:47 p.m. Bookshelves loomed, murmured, his voice soft yet resonant. A crime of passion, perhaps, but one dressed in the garb of intellect. Observe, Hastings, the dagger is no common blade. Its craftsmanship suggests purpose, not impulse. Hastings, ever the practical Englishman, shuddered. It's ghastly, Poirot. A scholar of all people, struck down in his prime. Who could have done this? Poirot's lips curved into a faint, enigmatic smile. That, mon ami, is what the little gray cells shall uncover. But first we must understand the man, and the motive. The dean, a wiry man with spectacles perched precariously on his nose, wrung his hands as he recounted the evening's events. Professor Langley, he explained, was a titan in his field, revered for his meticulous research into medieval codices. His latest discovery, a rare manuscript rumored to hold secrets of historical significance, had stirred both admiration and envy among his peers. Langley had been working late, as was his habit, when a porter discovered his body. The courtyard gate was locked, suggesting the killer was someone within the college's walls. Poirot knelt beside the body, his gloved fingers tracing the air above the dagger without touching it. "The wound is precise," he noted. The killer struck once, with confidence. No hesitation, no struggle. Langley did not expect this betrayal. He turned his attention to the note in Langley's hand. The words, scrawled in the professor's own meticulous script, intrigued him. "The truth lies in the margins," Poirot repeated, his accent lending the phrase an almost musical cadence. "A clue, perhaps? or a taunt? We shall see. The room offered more questions than answers. A silver cigarette case, engraved with the initials E.L., lay on the desk, its contents untouched. A glass of port, half drunk, sat beside a stack of manuscripts, one of which bore a faint smudge of ink, fresh, as if written moments before death. The window was latched, the door unforced. Whoever had entered had been welcomed, or at least expected. Poirot's gaze lingered on the professor, who had access to this study. The dean hesitated, then listed the suspects. Dr. Margaret Hale, a fellow historian whose career had languished in Langley's shadow. Lord Reginald Ashford, a disgraced former student expelled for academic fraud. Clara Langley, the professor's estranged daughter, recently seen in Cambridge. Thomas Wren, Langley's assistant, whose ambition chafed under his mentor's dominance. And Evelyn Marsh, the college librarian, whose quiet demeanor hid an uncanny knowledge of Langley's work. Each, Poirot noted, had a motive as sharp as the dagger itself. As the fog thickened outside, Poirot paced the room, his steps measured, his mind a whirlwind of deduction. The study was a stage, and the players were assembling. Dr. Hale's rivalry was well known. She had publicly challenged Langley's findings on the Codex. Lord Ashford's expulsion had left him bitter, his title tarnished. Clara's estrangement hinted at personal grievances, perhaps tied to Langley's wealth. Wren's proximity to the professor gave him opportunity, but was his loyalty genuine? And Miss Marsh, her silence was louder than words. Poirot paused by the fireplace, where a faint scent of lavender lingered, out of place amid the masculine scents of leather and tobacco. "Curieux," he murmured. "A woman's presence, perhaps, or a deliberate misdirection." Hastings, ever eager, ventured, "Could it be Clara? The daughter, I mean. Family disputes often turn ugly." Poirot shook his head. "Patience, Hastings. The heart may suspect, but the mind must prove. We shall interview each in turn, but first we observe. The room speaks if we listen." He examined the desk again, noting a locked journal tucked beneath a pile of papers. The key, curiously, was missing. "This journal," Poirot said, "may hold the secrets Langley died for. But why lock it unless he feared discovery?" The dean, growing paler, stammered, "The code killer's taunting flourish." Poirot adjusted his hat, his expression resolute. "The little gray cells," he said softly. "They shall not rest until the truth is revealed." Who had stood in this room, cloaked in fog and malice, to end a man's life? Chapter 2. The Gathering of Shadows. The fog outside St. Augustine's College thickened, its gray fingers curling around the ancient stonework as if to choke the truth from the very walls. Within the college's dimly lit hall, Hercule Poirot stood, his silhouette sharp against the flickering glow of a chandelier. The air was heavy with the scent of polished oak and the faint tang of fear. The murder of Professor Edmund Langley had sent ripples through Cambridge, and now, as midnight's echo faded, Poirot prepared to meet those whose lives had intersected with the slain scholars. Each, he knew, held a piece of the puzzle, whether they knew it or not. Captain Hastings, ever the faithful shadow, adjusted his tie nervously. "Poirot, this place feels like a tomb. All these scholars and secrets. It's enough to make one's head spin." Poirot's mustache twitched, a faint smile playing beneath it. Précisément, mon ami. But it is in the spinning that we find clarity. The mind, it must be like the compass, steady, yet seeking the true north. Now, let us meet these players in our little drama. The dean, Mr. Percival, ushered them into a paneled antechamber where the suspects awaited, their faces a gallery of guarded expressions. Poirot's green eyes, sharp as a falcon's, scanned each in turn, noting the subtleties of posture, the flickers of unease. The room was a crucible, and he, the alchemist, would draw forth the truth. First was Dr. Margaret Hale, a woman of 40 with steel-gray hair pinned tightly, her angular features set in a mask of indignation. A rival historian, she had clashed with Langley over his codex, accusing him of stealing her research. Her hands clasped before her trembled slightly. Not with fear, Poirot noted, but with suppressed rage. I respected auburn hair was tucked beneath a cloche hat, and her coat, damp from the fog, suggested a recent arrival. "I came to see him," she said softly, her voice catching. "To make amends." But he was already dead. Her eyes darted to the floor, and Poirot sensed a truth half-spoken. What had driven her to this late-night visit? Thomas Wren, Langley's assistant, was a wiry man in his late 20s, his spectacles magnifying nervous eyes. His ambition had been stifled under Langley's shadow, and his fidgeting hands betrayed a restless energy. "I worked tirelessly for him," Wren said, his tone bitter. "He took credit for my discoveries, including that wretched codex." A faint cut on his palm caught Poirot's attention. Recent, perhaps from a struggle. Wren's gaze flickered to Clara, and Poirot filed the connection for later scrutiny. Lastly, Evelyn Marsh, the college librarian, stood apart, her presence almost spectral. Her dark eyes held an uncanny depth, as if she saw more than she spoke. She admitted to helping Langley catalog his codex, her voice low and measured. "He was obsessed with it," she said. "It consumed him." Her fingers brushed a silver locket at her throat, and Poirot wondered what secrets she guarded behind her quiet facade. The dean, wringing his hands, interjected. "Mr. Poirot, these are respected members of our community. Surely you don't suspect them all." Poirot's smile was serene, but his eyes were unyielding. "Monsieur Percival, in a crime such as this, all are suspects until the truth declares otherwise. Each has a motive, n'est-ce pas? Envy, revenge, betrayal. These are the threads we shall unravel." He turned to the group, his voice calm yet commanding. "Tell me, who last saw Professor Langley alive? And where were you when the clock struck 11? A tense silence followed, broken only by the distant toll of a college bell. Dr. Hale claimed to have been in her office, preparing a lecture. Ashford swore he was at a pub. Letter, half-written, addressed to an unnamed recipient. The ink was fresh, the pen still uncapped. "Curieux," Poirot murmured. Langley was writing when he was struck. He knew his killer, or at least did not fear them. The door was unforced, the window latched. This was no stranger's work. He turned to the heraldry book, its misalignment nagging at him. Opening it, he found a page marked with a ribbon, its margins filled with Langley's meticulous notes. One word stood out: lineage. Poirot's eyes narrowed. "This codex," he said to Hastings, "it is more than academic. It touches something personal, perhaps dangerous." The dean, hovering nervously, explained that Langley's codex was rumored to reveal a scandal involving a noble family's origins. "He was cagey about it," Percival admitted. "Said it could rewrite history or destroy reputations." Poirot's mind whirred. A scandal could explain the motives of Ashford, whose title was tied to his lineage, or Clara, whose estrangement might stem from family secrets. Even Hale's academic rivalry could mask a deeper grudge, if the codex threatened her credibility. Wren's ambition and Marsh's knowledge placed them dangerously close to the truth. A faint scent of lavender lingered in the air, the same Poirot had noticed earlier. He traced it to a handkerchief, half hidden beneath a chair, embroidered with the initials C.L. Clara Langley, or another misdirection. He pocketed it discreetly, his expression unreadable. "Poirot," Hastings ventured. "That handkerchief, could it be Clara's? She was here, wasn't she?" "Perhaps," Poirot said, his tone cryptic. "But we must not leap, Hastings. The heart is impatient, but the mind must be precise." He examined the cigarette case, its silver surface gleaming. It was unopened, suggesting Langley had not smoked that night. Yet a killer is clever, yet not clever enough. They have left a trail, and we shall follow it. The bell tolled again, its mournful note swallowed by the fog. Poirot's mind was alight with possibilities, each suspect a facet of the mystery. Hale's pride, Ashford's shame, Clara's secrets, Wren's envy, Marsh's silence. Each was a clue, a shadow in the gathering storm. The codex, with its whispered scandal, loomed over them all. What truth had Langley uncovered that warranted his death? And who among these shadowed figures had struck the fatal blow? The fog held its breath, but the killer's secret would not stay buried forever. Chapter 3. The Cryptic Note. The fog clung to Cambridge like a conspirator, its damp tendrils weaving through the narrow lanes of St. Augustine's College. The night had deepened, and the air carried a chill that seemed to seep into the very stones of the ancient courtyard. Within the professor's study, where the body of Edmund Langley lay beneath a sheet, Hercule Poirot stood motionless, his sharp green eyes fixed on the crumpled note clutched in the dead man's hand. The words, "The truth lies in the margins," scrawled in Langley's precise script, seemed to pulse with meaning. Was it a dying man's final clue, or a taunt left by his killer? Poirot's mustache twitched, a silent signal that his little gray cells were at work, unraveling the threads of this grim tapestry. Captain Hastings, pacing near the fireplace, broke the silence. "It's a devil of a puzzle, Poirot. That note. Do you think Langley wrote it as he was dying? Or did the killer plant it to throw us off?" Poirot raised a gloved hand, his voice calm yet commanding. "Patience, mon ami. The note is the heart of the mystery, but it does not speak alone. Observe the room, Hastings. It tells a story, if we listen." The study was a sanctuary of scholarship, its walls lined with towering bookshelves, their volumes standing like silent witnesses. The fire in the grate had dwindled, his brow furrowed. "A fingerprint. That's something, isn't it? The police could match it, surely. Poirot's smile was enigmatic. The police, they would seize upon it, yes. But we, Hastings, we seek the why as much as the who. A fingerprint may point to a hand, but it is the mind we must uncover. He straightened, his eyes sweeping the room. The heraldry book, still askew on the shelf, drew his attention once more. He opened it, finding the marked page with Langley's scrawled notes. The word lineage appeared again, underlined with a trembling hand. The margins, Poirot repeated, his voice low. Langley was telling us where to look, or someone wishes us to believe he was. The dean, Mr. Percival, hovered nervously at the door, his spectacles glinting in the lamplight. Mr. Poirot, this is all most distressing. The college cannot withstand such a scandal. Can you not resolve this quickly? Poirot's gaze was unyielding. Monsieur Percival, the truth is not a thing to be hurried. It is like a fine wine. It must breathe. Now, I wish to speak with Mademoiselle Clara Langley. Her presence here tonight, it intrigues me. Clara was summoned, and she entered the study with the hesitance of a deer stepping into a clearing. Her auburn hair was tucked beneath her cloche hat, and her coat, still damp from the fog, clung to her slight frame. Her eyes, a pale blue, flickered with a mix of grief and defiance. Poirot gestured to a chair, his manner courteous, yet probing. Mademoiselle, you say you came to reconcile with your father, yet you arrived late, in the fog, at a locked gate. Tell me, why this sudden urge to mend what was broken? Clara's fingers tightened around her handbag, her knuckles whitening. I hadn't seen him in years. He disapproved of my choices, my life. But I heard he was ill, and I thought... Her voice faltered, and she looked away, her gaze falling on the covered body. A tear escaped, but she broke. You mean? I lost no handkerchief. Poirot inclined his head, dismissing her for now. As she left, he turned to Hastings. She hides something, mon ami. Her grief is real, but so is her secrecy. We shall return to her. Next, Poirot summoned Thomas Wren, Langley's assistant. The young man entered with a nervous energy, his spectacles slipping down his nose. His hands fidgeted, and Poirot noted the fresh cut on his palm, now bandaged. Monsieur Wren, Poirot began, his voice smooth. You were close to the professor. Yet you resented him, no? His fame, it overshadowed your own contributions. Wren flushed, his eyes darting to the desk. I worked hard for him. The codex, I found it in the archives, but he claimed it as his own. He said I lacked the vision to understand its importance. His voice trembled with suppressed anger. But I didn't kill him. I was in the library, cataloging manuscripts, until late. Poirot's gaze lingered on the bandage. That cut, monsieur. How did you come by it? Wren hesitated, then said, a paper cut. From handling old manuscripts. They're brittle, you know. Poirot's smile was faint. A paper cut, oui. Most convenient. And tell me, did you see Mademoiselle Clara this evening? Or perhaps Miss Marsh? Wren's eyes flickered, a brief betrayal of unease. No, I was alone. The library was quiet. Poirot dismissed him, his mind cataloging the exchange. The cut, Hastings, he said softly. It is too deep for a paper's edge. And his glance when I mentioned Clara, it speaks of connection. Or perhaps guilt. Hastings frowned. You think Wren's lying? Or Clara? Or both? Both, perhaps, Poirot replied. But the truth, it is like a mosaic. We have pieces, but not yet the picture. He returned to the desk, examining the smudged fingerprint on the dagger. It was too blurred for certainty, but its presence suggested haste or carelessness. Poirot's mind turned to the codex, still missing from the study. The dean had mentioned a vault in their illusion. Hastings shivered. It's eerie, Poirot. The note, the dagger, the locked gate. It's all so deliberate. Do you think the killer's still here, watching us? Poirot's eyes gleamed. Oui, Hastings. They watch, and they wait. But they do not know the mind of Poirot. The little gray cells, they are never deceived for long. The clock struck 1, its chimes a mournful reminder of time's passage. The study's shadows seemed to deepen, as if guarding the secrets of the night. Poirot adjusted his hat, his resolve unshaken. The note's message echoed in his mind. The truth lies in the margins. Was it Langley's final act pointing to his killer? Or was it a red herring planted to mislead? The answer lay in the suspects, their alibis, their lies. And somewhere in the fog-draped halls of Cambridge, the codex waited, its pages heavy with the weight of truth. What secret had Langley uncovered that cost him his life? Chapter 4. The Rival's Ambition. The fog over Cambridge thickened, a spectral veil that seemed to whisper secrets as it clung to the Gothic spires of St. Augustine's College. Inside the college's labyrinthine halls, Hercule Poirot moved with the precision of a chess master, his green eyes glinting with the quiet intensity of a man who saw not just the pieces, but the game itself. The murder of Professor Edmund Langley, stabbed in his study with a cryptic note in his hand, had cast a shadow over the academic sanctuary. The note, "The truth lies in the margins," was a riddle, and Poirot was determined to unravel it. The study, with its blood-stained desk and silent bookshelves, had yielded clues, but the suspects, each with their own motives, were the true puzzle. Captain Hastings, trailing behind, adjusted his scarf against the chill. Poirot, this place is positively oppressive. All these scholars hiding behind their books and grudges. Do you think we're getting closer to the truth? Poirot's mustache twitched. Irritation is too mild a word, Mr. Poirot. Edmund Langley was a thief of ideas. That codex. My research laid the groundwork for its discovery, yet he claimed it as his own. He called my work derivative. Her voice rose, sharp with indignation, and she turned to face him, her posture rigid. I argued with him that evening, yes, in his study. He dismissed me, as always, with that infuriating smirk. Poirot tilted his head, his gaze piercing, and this argument, it was heated, perhaps enough to drive one to extreme measures. Hale's hands clenched, her knuckles whitening. If you're suggesting I killed him, you're mistaken. I left his study at 10:30, alive and insufferable as ever. I was in my office afterward, preparing a lecture. Poirot nodded, his expression unreadable. And yet, madame, your waste bin tells a different story. He gestured to a small bin beside her desk where a torn page peeked out, its script matching the manuscripts on Langley's desk. This page, it is from his research, no? How did it come to be here? Hale's face paled, but her voice remained steady. I borrowed some of his notes to verify a reference. He allowed it. There's no crime in that. Poirot's smile was faint, almost pitying. Borrowed or taken? The distinction, it is important. And your hands, madame, they tremble. Is it anger or guilt? Hale drew herself up, her eyes blazing. Anger, Mr. Poirot. I had no need to kill him. His arrogance was punishment enough. Poirot dismissed her for now, his mind cataloging her words. As they left her office, he bent to retrieve the torn page from the waste bin, slipping it into his pocket. "This page, Hastings," he said softly. "It is a clue, but perhaps not the one she intended." The codex, it seems, was a prize worth stealing or killing for. Hastings frowned, his brow creased. "You think Hale took his notes? But why? To discredit him? Or to claim his discovery?" Poirot replied. "Ambition. It is a powerful motive. But we must test her alibi."
Discrepancy, no? And this handkerchief. He produced the monogrammed cloth with the initials CL.
"It was found near the study. Yours, perhaps?" Ashford's face darkened, his fingers tightening around his glass. "That's not mine. I don't use such things. And I wasn't near his study. I haven't set foot in that college since he ruined me." Poirot noted the tremble in his voice, the way his eyes avoided contact. "You confronted him, perhaps? Demanded reinstatement? Or revenge?" Ashford slammed his glass down, ale sloshing. "I wanted to, yes. I went to the college that night, but the gate was locked. I turned back, I swear it." Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "The gate, it is always locked. Yet someone entered. Someone with access, or cunning. We shall see, monsieur." As they left the pub, Poirot turned to Hastings. "His alibi, it crumbles like stale bread. And the handkerchief, it is not his, but it points to another. Clara Langley, perhaps, or a clever misdirection." Hastings shivered, pulling his coat tighter. "This case is a tangle, Poirot. Hale's got those notes. Ashford's lying about his whereabouts. And that note in Langley's hand. It's like a riddle from one of his manuscripts." "Précisément," Poirot said, his eyes gleaming. "The note, it is the key. The truth lies in the margins. We must return to the study, Hastings. There is more to uncover." Back in Langley's study, the air was colder now, the fire long dead. The professor's body had been removed, but the dagger remained, its blade catching the lamplight. Poirot examined the desk again, his fingers tracing the papers. The torn page from Hale's waste bin matched a manuscript on the codex, but its contents were mundane, notes on medieval script styles. "A red herring, perhaps," Poirot murmured, "or a fragment of a larger truth." He turned to the heraldry book, opening it to the marked page. Langley's notes in the margins were dense, filled with references to was the needle binding them. He paced the study, his steps measured, his thoughts a storm. The lavender scent lingered, a faint echo of a woman's presence. Was it Clara's, or another's? The fingerprint on the dagger was blurred, but its placement suggested a struggle, or a deliberate plant. And the note, "The truth lies in the margins," was it Langley's warning, or the killer's taunt? Poirot paused by the window, peering into the fog. "This murder," he said softly. "It is a performance, staged with care. The killer, they wish to be seen as clever, yet they have made mistakes. The little gray cells, they will find them." Hastings rubbed his hands together, his breath visible in the chill. "It's all so calculated, Poirot. The locked gate, the precise stab, the note. It's like a game." "Oui, Hastings," Poirot replied, his voice low. "And Hercule Poirot, he does not lose at games." The clock struck 2, its chimes swallowed by the fog. The study's shadows seemed to close in, guarding their secrets. Poirot adjusted his hat, his resolve unshaken. The codex, the handkerchief, the fingerprint, each was a clue, a whisper of the truth. But who had stood in this room, cloaked in malice, to end Langley's life? And what secret, buried in the margins, was worth killing for? What did Hale hide in her waste bin? And why did Ashford lie? Chapter 5. The Disgraced Lord. The fog that cloaked Cambridge seemed to thicken with each passing hour, its gray tendrils weaving a shroud around St. Augustine's College, as if the very air conspired to hide the truth of Professor Edmund Langley's murder. The night had grown colder, the cobblestones of Trinity Lane slick with mist. Hercule Poirot, his overcoat buttoned against the chill, stood in the shadowed courtyard, his green eyes gleaming with the intensity of a hunter tracking elusive prey. The cryptic note, "The truth lies in the margins," and the blood-stained dagger in Langley's study were peak dissipation. His suit, though tailored, was rumpled, and his bloodshot eyes betrayed a man haunted by his fall from grace. The expulsion from Cambridge, orchestrated by Langley for Ashford's academic fraud, had stripped him of his scholarly ambitions and left his aristocratic title a hollow boast. "Monsieur Ashford," Poirot began, his voice smooth yet piercing, "you have no love for Professor Langley. He ended your career, no? Tell me, what brought you to the college on the night of his death?" Ashford's fingers tightened around a glass of gin, his knuckles whitening. "I told you, I was at the pub, the Black Boar. I didn't go near his study." His voice was slurred, but there was a defiance in his tone, as if he dared Poirot to contradict him. Poirot's eyes narrowed, his gaze fixed on Ashford's trembling hands. "And yet, monsieur, the barmaid says you left at 10:15. The college is but a short walk away. Time enough, perhaps, to confront the man who ruined you?" Ashford's laugh was bitter, jagged. "Confront him? Oh, I wanted to. I wanted to make him admit he was wrong to cast me out. But the gate was locked. I turned back. I swear it." Poirot produced the monogrammed handkerchief, its initials CL, stark against the white linen. "This was found near the study. It is not yours, you say. But your initials, they are R.A. A curious coincidence, no, that another's handkerchief should appear so conveniently?" Ashford's eyes widened, then narrowed. "That's not mine. I don't know whose it is. Someone's trying to pin this on me, aren't they?" He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a hiss. "Langley had enemies. Plenty of them. You should be looking at Hale. She hated him more than I did." Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "Enemies, oui. But you, monsieur, you had reason to hate him most. His codex, it threatened your family's lineage, did it not? A secret worth killing. Handkerchief. It's got Clara's initials, not his. Could he be telling the truth? Perhaps, Poirot said, his tone cryptic. But the truth, it is like the fog. It shifts, it conceals. We must seek another perspective. Miss Evelyn Marsh, the librarian, she knows more than she reveals." They returned to the college, where the library loomed like a cathedral of knowledge, its high ceilings lost in shadow. Evelyn Marsh moved among the stacks, her dark eyes watchful, her movements as silent as the books she tended. Her plain dress and silver locket gave her an air of understated mystery, and Poirot sensed a mind as sharp as his own behind her quiet demeanor. "Mademoiselle Marsh," he began, his voice courteous, "you were near the professor's study on the night of his death. You heard nothing, saw nothing. A woman of your observation, it is surprising." Marsh's fingers brushed her locket, a fleeting gesture. "I was shelving books in the West Wing," she said, her voice low and steady. "The library is large, Mr. Poirot. Sounds do not carry far." Poirot tilted his head, his eyes fixed on hers. "And yet, you knew of the professor's codex, its importance, its secrets. He trusted you, no? Perhaps with more than manuscripts?" Her gaze flickered, but her expression remained composed. "He valued my work. I catalogued his findings, nothing more. The codex, it consumed him. He spoke of a vault in the college chapel where he kept his most precious discoveries." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "A vault, you say? And you, mademoiselle, you know its location?" Marsh hesitated, her fingers tightening on the locket. "I know of it, yes, but I've never seen it. He was secretive, even with me." Poirot nodded, filing her words away. "And the note, mademoiselle, the truth lies in the margins. Does it mean anything to you?" Her lips parted, then closed. "It sounds like something he would say. He was always scribbling in the margins of his books, but I don't know what it means." Poirot dismissed her, his mind alight with murmured. "Langley did not smoke, yet this cigarette is here. A visitor, perhaps? Or another misdirection?" Hastings rubbed his chin. "It's all so calculated, Poirot. The note, the handkerchief, the cigarette. It's like the killer's playing a game with us." "Oui, Hastings," Poirot replied, his voice low. "And they believe themselves clever. But the little gray cells, they see through the fog. The fingerprint on the dagger, the lavender scent, the torn page from Hale's office. These are not accidents." He paced the study, his steps measured, his thoughts a whirlwind. Ashford's broken alibi, Hale's stolen notes, Clara's damp coat, Wren's cut, Marsh's guarded knowledge. Each was a piece of the mosaic. The codex, with its scandalous revelations, was the key. But who had sought to silence it? The note's cryptic message echoed in his mind. "The truth lies in the margins." Was it Langley's warning or the killer's taunt? Poirot paused by the window, peering into the fog. "This murder," he said softly. "It is a performance, staged with precision. The killer, they wish to outwit Hercule Poirot. But they have underestimated me." The clock struck 3, its chimes swallowed by the night. The study's shadows seemed to pulse, guarding their secrets. Poirot adjusted his hat, his resolve unshaken. The codex, the handkerchief, the fingerprint, each was a clue, a whisper of the truth. But who had stood in this room cloaked in malice to end Langley's life? And what secret buried in the margins was worth killing for? What did the vault conceal? And why was Ashford so afraid? Chapter 6. The Daughter's Secret. The fog over Cambridge hung like a curtain, muffling the world beyond St. Augustine's College in a damp, gray silence. The ancient spires loomed as shadows in the mist, their Gothic edges softened, but no less imposing. Within the college's hallowed halls, Hercule Poirot moved with the quiet determination and motives. Mademoiselle Clara, she is a paradox, grief and defiance in equal measure. We shall see what her secrets reveal. The boarding house was a narrow, ivy-clad building, its windows glowing faintly against the fog. Clara met them in a sparsely furnished parlor, her auburn hair tucked beneath a simple scarf, her pale blue eyes wary. Her coat, still damp from the previous night's mist, hung by the door, a silent reminder of her presence near the crime scene. She sat stiffly, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, as if bracing for an interrogation. "Mademoiselle Langley," Poirot began, his voice smooth yet probing. "You say you came to Cambridge to mend ties with your father. Yet you arrived late, in the fog at a locked gate. Tell me, what drove this sudden desire to heal old wounds?" Clara's lips parted, then closed, her gaze flickering to the floor. I hadn't seen him in 5 years, she said softly, her voice catching. He disapproved of my choices, my life, my suitor. I heard he was ill, and I thought it was time to make peace. But when I arrived, the gate was locked. I waited, and then I heard the porter's cry. Her eyes glistened, but she blinked back tears, her jaw tightening. Poirot's gaze was unrelenting, his tone gentle but firm. "And this suitor, mademoiselle, who is he? Your father's disapproval, it was strong enough to keep you apart for years. Why?" Clara's fingers tightened, her knuckles whitening. "It's private," she said sharply. "He has nothing to do with this. My father was stubborn, controlling. He wanted me to marry someone of his choosing, someone worthy of his name. I refused." Poirot leaned forward, his eyes locked on hers. "And this locket?" He gestured to the silver pendant at her throat, its surface catching the lamplight. "It holds a photograph, no? Of this suitor, perhaps?" Clara's hand flew to the locket, her face paling. "How did you—" "It's none of your business, Mr. Poirot, but of what we might uncover. The locket, the handkerchief, these are clues to her heart, and perhaps to the murder." Hastings frowned, stepping into the foggy street. "You think she's lying, Poirot? About the handkerchief, or her suitor?" "Both, perhaps," Poirot replied, his tone cryptic. "But we must return to the study. The scene. It still speaks to us." Back in Langley's study, the air was colder now, the fire long extinguished. The dagger, its hilt gleaming, had been removed with the body, but the desk remained a tableau of clues. Poirot knelt by the bookshelf, his gloved fingers tracing the spine of the heraldry book. Its marked page, with Langley's notes on the Ashford claim, hinted at a scandal that could ruin Lord Reginald Ashford's title. But another note, scrawled in the margins, caught Poirot's eye. "Family shame." The phrase was underlined, its ink fresh, as if written in haste. "Curious," Poirot murmured. "This codex, it is not merely academic. It touches the Langley family itself. Clara, perhaps, knows more than she admits." He examined the desk again, noting the half-written letter, its recipient unnamed. The words were cryptic. "The truth must be guarded, lest it destroy us all." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Langley feared exposure, Hastings. But of what? A scholarly fraud, or something more personal?" Hastings rubbed his chin. "You think Clara's involved? Her initials on that handkerchief. It's too convenient, isn't it?" "Précisément," Poirot said. "The handkerchief. It is either hers or a plant to implicate her. And the locket, she guards it like a secret too precious to share." Poirot's gaze fell on the cigarette case, still unopened, and the crushed cigarette on the floor. The faint scent of lavender lingered, a ghostly echo of a woman's presence. "This scent," he said softly. "It is feminine, no? Clara, perhaps, or Miss Marsh. Or another," said, her voice low, "is beneath the chapel floor. Langley showed me once, but I've never opened it." Poirot's gaze was piercing. "And you did not think to mention this sooner, mademoiselle? A vault, it is a place for secrets, secrets worth killing for, perhaps." Marsh's fingers brushed her locket, a fleeting gesture. "I didn't think it relevant. Langley was secretive. He trusted no one fully, not even me." Poirot nodded, his mind whirring. "Show me this vault, mademoiselle. The codex, it may hold the key to this tragedy." She led them to a stone slab behind the altar, its edges worn but unyielding. A faint inscription barely visible hinted at a cipher. Poirot knelt, his gloved fingers tracing the stone. "A lock, but no key," he murmured. "Like the journal, like the murder itself, a puzzle within a puzzle." Hastings shivered, his voice low. "It's eerie, Poirot. A vault, a codex, a murder, all tied to this family shame. Do you think Clara knows what's in there?" "Perhaps," Poirot said. "Or perhaps she fears it. The locket, the handkerchief, the note, these are threads that lead to her, but also away from her. The killer, they are clever, but not clever enough." The fog outside pressed against the chapel's windows, as if eager to conceal the truth. Poirot's mind was alight with possibilities. Clara's suitor, the codex's scandal, the vault's secrets. The suspects, Hale's ambition, Ashford's shame, Wren's envy, Marsh's silence, were pieces of a mosaic, but the picture remained incomplete. The note's cryptic message echoed, "The truth lies in the margins." Was it Langley's warning, or the killer's taunt? Poirot stood, his resolve unshaken. "This murder," he said softly, "it is a performance, staged with care. The killer, they challenge me to see through their illusion. But the little gray cells, they are never deceived." The chapel's silence was broken by a distant bell. Its toll lies in the margins. Clutched in his hand was a puzzle of motives and misdirection. Each suspect, with their tangled web of grievances, was a thread in a tapestry of deceit. And now, Poirot turned his piercing gaze to Thomas Wren, Langley's ambitious assistant. Captain Hastings, ever at his side, adjusted his scarf as they approached Wren's office, a cluttered room tucked in the college's east wing. "Poirot, this case is like navigating a maze blindfolded. Clara's locket, Ashford's lies, Hale's stolen notes, it's all a muddle. Do you think Wren's cut is the key? It's too convenient, isn't it?" Poirot's mustache twitched, a faint smile beneath it. "Mon ami, the muddle, it is deliberate. The killer weaves confusion, but the little gray cells, they see through the fog. Monsieur Wren, his envy, it is a fire that burns brightly. Let us see if it consumed him." Wren's office was a chaos of papers and books, a stark contrast to Langley's meticulous study. The air was thick with the scent of ink and dust, and a single lamp cast jagged shadows across the desk. Thomas Wren sat hunched over a manuscript, his spectacles slipping down his nose, his wiry frame tense with nervous energy. The bandage on his hand, covering the cut Poirot had noticed earlier, was stained with ink, as if he had been working feverishly. His eyes, magnified by his glasses, darted to Poirot with a mix of defiance and unease. "Monsieur Wren," Poirot began, his voice smooth yet unrelenting. "You were the professor's shadow, no? His assistant, yet never his equal. His fame, it weighed heavily on you, did it not?" Wren's fingers twitched, his bandage catching the lamplight. "I worked tirelessly for him," he said, his voice sharp with bitterness. "I found the codex in the archives, catalogued every page, but he took the credit. He said I lacked the vision to understand its importance." His eyes flashed, a spark of resentment breaking through his usual reserve. "I deserved better." Poirot logged on to Wren's desk, its pages open to the night of the murder. "You borrowed a book on poisons, monsieur. A curious choice for a historian." "Why?" Wren's eyes widened, his voice rising. "It was for research. Langley had me cross-reference medieval texts, some involving alchemy. It's not what you think." Poirot let the silence stretch, a technique that often coaxed truths from reluctant tongues. Wren's gaze darted to the door, as if he longed to flee. "I didn't kill him," he said, his voice quieter now, almost pleading. "I wanted his respect, not his death." Poirot nodded, dismissing him for now. As they left the office, he turned to Hastings. "He is afraid, mon ami. The cut, the book on poisons, these are not accidents." And his glance when I mentioned the library, it connects him to Mademoiselle Clara, perhaps. Hastings frowned, stepping into the foggy courtyard. "You think Wren's lying? About the cut or his whereabouts? And what about Clara? Her locket, her damp coat, she was there, wasn't she?" "Perhaps," Poirot said, his tone cryptic. "But the truth, it is like the fog. It shifts, it conceals. We must return to the study, the scene. It still holds secrets." Back in Langley's study, the air was colder now, the shadows deeper. The desk, cleared of the body but still stained with blood, was a silent witness to the crime. Poirot knelt by the bookshelf, his gloved fingers tracing the heraldry book's spine. The marked page, with its notes on the Ashford claim and family shame, hinted at a scandal that touched both Langley's lineage and Lord Ashford's title. But another detail caught his eye, a faint smudge of ink on the book's edge, matching the ink on Wren's bandage. "Curieux," Poirot murmured. "This smudge, it is fresh. Wren, he has touched this book. Perhaps on the night of the murder. But why?" He examined the desk again, noting the half-written letter, its words haunting. "The truth must be guarded, lest it destroy us all." The locked journal. "Journal?" Marcia's fingers brushed her locket, a fleeting gesture. "He was secretive," she said, her voice low. "The journal was private. He mentioned the vault only once, saying it held his greatest treasures. I assumed he meant the codex." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "And you, mademoiselle? You were near the study that night. Did you see Monsieur Wren? Or perhaps Mademoiselle Clara?" Her gaze flickered, but her expression remained composed. "I saw no one. The library was quiet. I was shelving books, as I said." Poirot nodded, his mind whirring. "The note, mademoiselle. The truth lies in the margins. Does it mean anything to you?" Marsh hesitated, her fingers tightening on the locket. "It's how he worked. He wrote in the margins, always. But I don't know what he meant by it." Poirot dismissed her, his thoughts a whirlwind. "She is careful, Hastings," he said as they left the library. "The locket, the vault. She guards her secrets as closely as Langley guarded his codex." Back in the courtyard, the fog pressed closer, its chill seeping into their bones. Poirot paused, his eyes scanning the shadowed arches. Wren's cut, his book on poisons, his presence in the library. These are threads that tie him to the crime. But the locket, the handkerchief, the lavender scent, they point elsewhere. Clara, perhaps. Or Marsh. Hastings shivered, his voice low. It's all so deliberate, Poirot. The note, the smudge, the cut. It's like the killers daring us to catch them. We Hastings, Poirot said, his eyes gleaming. And they believe themselves clever. But the little gray cells, they see through the illusion. The clock struck 4, its chimes swallowed by the fog. The study's shadows seemed to pulse, guarding their secrets. Poirot adjusted his hat, his resolve unshaken. The codex, the journal, the vault, each was a clue, a whisper of the truth. Wren's envy was a powerful motive, but was it enough to kill? And what of Clara's suitor, or Marsh's guarded knowledge? Within the college's Gothic halls, Hercule Poirot moved with the quiet precision of a man who saw beyond the shadows to the truths they concealed. The murder of Professor Edmund Langley, stabbed in his study with a cryptic note. The truth lies in the margins, clutched in his lifeless hand, was a puzzle of intricate design. Each suspect, with their web of motives, was a thread in a tapestry of deceit. And now, Poirot turned his piercing gaze to Evelyn Marsh, the enigmatic librarian whose silence spoke louder than words. Captain Hastings, trailing behind, adjusted his scarf against the biting cold as they entered the college library. Poirot, this case is like chasing ghosts in this fog. Wren's cut, Clara's locket, Ashford's lies. It's all a tangle. But Miss Marsh, she's too quiet, isn't she? Like she's hiding something big. Poirot's mustache twitched, his green eyes gleaming with intensity. Précisément, mon ami. Silence. It is often the loudest confession. Mademoiselle Marsh, she knows more than she reveals. Her knowledge of the codex, the vault, it is a key we must turn. The library was a cathedral of knowledge, its high ceilings lost in shadow, its shelves towering like sentinels. The air was thick with the scent of old leather and wax, and a single lamp cast a soft glow over the stacks. Evelyn Marsh moved among them, her dark eyes watchful, her movements as silent as the books she tended. Her plain dress and silver locket gave her an air of understated mystery, and Poirot sensed a mind as sharp as his own behind her reserved demeanor. Mademoiselle Marsh, Poirot began, his voice smooth yet unrelenting. You were close to Professor Langley's work, no? His codex, his secrets. You catalogued them. Tell me, what did you know of his vault in the chapel? Marsh's fingers brushed her locket, a fleeting gesture that did not escape Poirot's notice. He mentioned it once, she said, her voice low and measured, pitying. In a murder, mademoiselle, everything is relevant. The note in the professor's hand, the truth lies in the margins. You said it was his habit to write in the margins. Did he share such notes with you? She hesitated, her fingers still clutching the locket. He did sometimes. He was always scribbling, ideas, references, secrets. But I don't know what that note meant. Poirot let the silence stretch, a technique that often coaxed truths from guarded tongues. Marsh's eyes darted to the stacks as if seeking refuge in their shadows. You knew of the codex's importance, he pressed. It's revelations about a noble family's lineage, perhaps the Ashfords, or even the Langleys themselves. Did he confide in you about a family shame? Her face paled, her composure faltering for the first time. He mentioned something once in passing. A scandal long buried, but he didn't elaborate. I didn't pry. Poirot nodded, dismissing her for now. As they left the library, he turned to Hastings. She is a vault herself, mon ami. The locket, her hesitation. She guards a secret as carefully as Langley guarded his codex. We must see this vault in the chapel. They made their way to the college chapel, its stained glass windows glowing faintly through the fog. The air inside was heavy with the scent of wax and old stone, the silence broken only by the soft creak of pews. Poirot, accompanied by Hastings, approached the stone slab behind the altar, its faint inscription hinting at a cipher. Kneeling, he traced the edges with gloved fingers, his mind whirring. A lock, but no key, he murmured. Like the journal, like the murder itself, a puzzle within a puzzle. Hastings shivered, his voice low. It's eerie, Poirot. A hidden vault, a codex, a murder, all tied to this family shame. Do you think Marsh knows what's in there? Oui, Hastings, Poirot replied. She knows, or she suspects. Her locket, it own. The note, the vault, the locket. These are threads that tie to Mademoiselle Marsh, but also to Mademoiselle Clara. They returned to the study where the air was colder now, the shadows deeper. Poirot examined the heraldry book again, its margins dense with Langley's notes. The phrase family shame was underlined, its ink fresh. Another note caught his eye. E.M. knows. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Marsh, she is no mere librarian. She is part of this, perhaps more deeply than we know. He turned to the desk where the crushed cigarette still lay, its tobacco scattered like ashes of a failed plan. The faint scent of lavender lingered, a ghostly echo of a woman's presence. This scent, he said softly. It is feminine, no? Marsh, perhaps, or Clara. Or a deliberate misdirection. Poirot's gaze fell on the locked journal, its key still missing. This journal, he said to Hastings. It holds the heart of the mystery. Langley locked it to protect something, perhaps the codex, perhaps a secret about his daughter or his trusted ally. Hastings rubbed his chin. You think Marsh is involved? Her locket, that letter. She's hiding something, isn't she? Oui, Hastings, Poirot said. But is it guilt or fear? The fingerprint on the dagger, the handkerchief with Clara's initials, Wren's cut. These are pieces that do not yet fit. Poirot paced the study, his steps measured, his thoughts a storm. The codex, with its scandalous revelations, was the key. But who had sought to silence it? Hale's ambition, Ashford's shame, Clara's secrets, Wren's envy, Marsh's silence. Each was a thread in the tapestry. The letter in the vault, addressed to Marsh, suggested a bond beyond professional ties. Was she Langley's confidant, or his betrayer? He paused by the window, peering into the fog. This murder, he said softly. It is a performance, staged of a mosaic, but the picture remained incomplete. The note's cryptic message echoed, the truth lies in the margins. Was it Langley's warning or the killer's taunt? And one of the letter, implicating a trusted ally who had stood in the study, cloaked in malice to end Langley's life. And what secret, buried in the margins, was worth killing for? What did the ciphered letter reveal? And why did Marsh falter? Chapter 9. The Web Unravels. The fog that cloaked Cambridge was a relentless veil, its gray tendrils weaving through the ancient spires of St. Augustine's College, as if guarding the secrets of the night. The air was sharp with the chill of dawn, the cobblestones slick with mist. Within the college's grand hall, Hercule Poirot stood like a conductor before an orchestra of suspects, his green eyes gleaming with the intensity of a man who saw the threads of truth amidst a tapestry of deceit. The murder of Professor Edmund Langley, stabbed in his study with a cryptic note, "The truth lies in the margins," clutched in his hand, was a puzzle nearing its resolution. Each suspect, with their tangled motives, was a piece of the mosaic, and now Poirot prepared to weave them together. Captain Hastings, standing by his side, shifted nervously, his breath visible in the cold air. "Poirot, this is it, isn't it? You've got that look, the one you get when the pieces are falling into place. But who's the killer? They're all so plausible." Poirot's mustache twitched, a faint smile beneath it. "Mon ami, the truth, it is like the fog. It obscures, but it cannot hide forever. The little gray cells, they have been busy. Now, we shall reveal the picture they have painted." The suspects were gathered in the hall, their faces a gallery of unease under the flickering chandelier. Dr. Margaret Hale stood rigid, her steel-gray hair pinned tightly, her eyes burning with indignation. Lord Reginald Ashford slouched, his bloodshot eyes avoiding contact. His reputations, legacies, lives. Langley's notes in the heraldry book spoke of a family shame, a falsified lineage that could ruin a noble house. Lord Ashford, your title, it rests on this lie, no? Ashford's face paled, his hands clenching. "I told you I wasn't there, I didn't kill him." Poirot raised a hand, silencing him. "Patience, monsieur. We shall come to you. But first, the clues." The dagger, its hilt ornate, was no common weapon. It was a relic, chosen for its symbolism. The fingerprint, smudged on the hilt, suggests haste, or perhaps intention. The handkerchief, with the initials CL, points to Mademoiselle Clara. But is it hers, or a plant? The crushed cigarette, the lavender scent, the locked journal, these are threads in a web of deceit. He turned to Dr. Hale, his gaze piercing. "Madam, your ambition burned brightly. You argued with Langley over the codex, accusing him of stealing your work. A torn page from his manuscript was found in your waste bin. Did you seek to claim his discovery, or destroy it?" Hale's eyes flashed, her voice sharp. "I took nothing. I borrowed his notes to verify a reference. I was in my office preparing a lecture when he died." Poirot nodded, his expression unreadable. "And you, Monsieur Wren," he said, turning to the assistant. "Your envy. It was a fire. You found the codex, yet Langley claimed the glory. The cut on your hand, it matches the dagger's hilt. And The library log shows you borrowed a book on poisons, a curious choice. No. Wren's face flushed, his voice trembling. It was for research. I didn't kill him. I was in the library cataloging manuscripts. Poirot's eyes gleamed as he turned to Clara. Mademoiselle Langley, your estrangement from your father was deep. You came to reconcile, you say. Yet your coat was damp, as if you lingered in the courtyard. The dagger, earlier that day, when I brought it to him. He wanted to study its inscription for the codex, but I didn't kill him. Poirot's smile was enigmatic. And yet your envy, it is too obvious, no? A motive so clear, it blinds us to others. Let us consider Mademoiselle Clara. Your locket, it holds a photograph of Monsieur Wren, does it not? Your suitor, the one your father forbade. Clara gasped, her hand clutching the locket. How did you… Yes, it's Thomas. Father disapproved because Thomas was his assistant, not a man of wealth or status. But we didn't kill him. Poirot nodded, his eyes gleaming. Together you planned to expose the Codex's truth, a scandal about your family's lineage, a shame Langley sought to hide. The heraldry book's notes, they confirm it. But someone else struck first, no? Someone who knew the Codex's secret and feared its revelation. He turned to the group, his voice rising. The Codex revealed a falsified lineage, not just the Ashfords, but the Langley's own. A secret that could ruin reputations, legacies, lives. The note, the truth lies in the margins, was Langley's warning, written as he sensed his end. But the killer, they were clever. They planted the handkerchief to implicate Mademoiselle Clara, used Monsieur Wren's fingerprint to mislead. The lavender scent, the crushed cigarette. These were flourishes in a performance. Hastings leaned in, whispering, Poirot, you're close, aren't you? But who? Hale? Ashford? Marsh? Poirot's eyes gleamed. The truth, mon ami, it is near. The letter in the vault addressed to E.M. speaks of betrayal. Mademoiselle Marsh, you are more than a librarian to Langley, no. A confidant, perhaps something closer. The Codex's truth, it threatened you as much as it threatened him. Marsh's face paled, her hand trembling on her locket. I don't know what you mean, she stammered, but her voice betrayed a crack of fear. Poirot stepped closer, his voice low but resonant. The web. His mind was alight with possibilities. Wren's fingerprint, Clara's locket, Marsh's letter. The suspects were pieces of a mosaic, but the picture was almost complete. The truth, it was close, but one question lingered, sharp as the dagger that had ended Langley's life. Who betrayed Langley's trust, and why? Chapter 10. The Final Revelation. The fog that draped Cambridge was a fading shroud, its gray tendrils retreating as the first light of dawn crept over the spires of St. Augustine's College. Within the grand hall, where shadows danced under the flickering chandelier, Hercule Poirot stood like a maestro before his orchestra of suspects, his green eyes gleaming with the clarity of a man who had unraveled the final threads of a complex tapestry. The murder of Professor Edmund Langley, stabbed in his study with a cryptic note, "The truth lies in the margins," clutched in his hand, had woven a web of deceit, envy, and betrayal. Each suspect, with their tangled motives, was a piece of the mosaic. And now, Poirot prepared to reveal the killer, his voice steady, his mind alight with the triumph of his little gray cells. Captain Hastings at his side leaned in, his voice a hushed whisper. "Poirot, you've got them on edge. I can feel it. You know who did it, don't you? This is the moment. Poirot's mustache twitched, a faint smile beneath it. Oui, mon ami. The fog, it lifts, and the truth, it stands revealed. The little gray cells, they have not failed. Now, we shall bring this performance to its close. The suspects stood or sat in a tense semicircle, their faces a gallery of fear, defiance, and resignation. Dr. Margaret Hale's angular features were set in a scowl, her steel-gray hair glinting with indignation. Lord Reginald Ashford slouched, his bloodshot eyes darting nervously, his rumpled suit a testament to his disgrace. Clara Langley clutched her locket, her pale blue eyes glistening with unshed tears. Thomas Red's fingerprint on its hilt, smudged but telling, belonged to Monsieur Wren. The handkerchief, with the initials CL, pointed to Mademoiselle Clara. The crushed cigarette, the lavender scent, the locked journal. These were threads in a web of misdirection. And the letter in the chapel vault, addressed to E.M., spoke of a trusted ally and a truth that could destroy. He turned to Wren, his gaze piercing. Monsieur Wren, your envy was afire. You found the codex, yet Langley claimed the glory. The cut on your hand, it matches the dagger's hilt. You touched it, you say, earlier that day. But your presence in the library, near the study, places you at the scene. Did you strike to claim what was yours? Wren stood, his face ashen, his voice trembling. No, I told you I handled the dagger for research. I was in the library, cataloging manuscripts. I didn't kill him. Poirot nodded, his expression unreadable. And you, Mademoiselle Clara, he said, turning to the daughter. Your estrangement was deep, your locket revealing a forbidden love, Monsieur Wren, your suitor. Your father's disapproval drove a wedge between you. The handkerchief, it bears your initials. Were you in the study, seeking to confront him? Clara's hand clutched her locket, her eyes glistening. I wasn't there. I was outside, waiting at the gate. I wanted to reconcile, not kill him. The handkerchief, it's not mine. Poirot's gaze softened, but only slightly. And you, Madame Hale, he said, turning to the rival. Your ambition burned brightly. You argued with Langley, accusing him of stealing your work. A torn page from his manuscript was found in your waste bin. Did you seek to destroy his legacy, or claim it? Hale's eyes flashed, her voice sharp. I borrowed his notes, nothing more. I was in my office, preparing a lecture. I had no reason to kill him. Poirot turned to Ashford, his tone unrelenting. Monsieur Ashford, your shame was a wound, revealed the truth most devastating. That Edmund Langley's family, and yours, Mademoiselle Marsh, shared a secret. You are his half-sister, no? Born out of wedlock, hidden to protect the Langley name. The Codex, it exposed this shame, threatening your existence, your place in this world. A gasp rippled through the hall. Marsh's composure shattered, her eyes wide with shock. How did you? No, I didn't kill him. I loved him. Poirot's smile was serene, but his eyes were steely. Oui, you loved him, but you feared him. The letter in the vault, it was a plea, to guard the Codex or destroy it. But you chose another path. You entered the study, welcomed as a sister. You stabbed him with the dagger, a relic from your shared lineage, chosen for its symbolism. You planted the handkerchief to implicate Mademoiselle Clara, used Monsieur Wren's fingerprint to mislead. The lavender scent, it was yours. From the perfume you wear. The crushed cigarette, a flourish to suggest a struggle that never was. Marsh staggered, her hand clutching her locket, which Poirot now knew held a photograph of her mother, their mother. "No, you can't prove it," she cried, her voice breaking. Poirot stepped closer, his voice low but resonant. "The little gray cells, they see all. The journal, locked without a key, contained your secret. Langley's notes on your birth, hidden in the margins. The smudge on the heraldry book, it matched your ink-stained fingers. You were in the study, mademoiselle, not shelving books. You betrayed your brother to protect your shame." Marsh's knees buckled, and she sank to the floor, sobbing. He was going to reveal it, the codex. It proved our mother was a servant, our father a fraud. It would have ruined us, ruined me. I begged him to stop, but he wouldn't listen. I had no choice. The hall was silent, the suspects frozen, their eyes on Marsh. Clara's tears fell, secrets laid bare, their motives untangled. The note's cryptic message, "The truth lies in the margins," had been Langley's final act, a warning that led to his killer. As they left the hall, Hastings shook his head. "It's always the quiet ones, isn't it, Poirot? Marsh seems so harmless." Poirot smiled, his voice soft. "The quiet ones, mon ami. They are often the most dangerous. For their secrets they will kill. But Hercule Poirot, he sees through the fog." The clock struck 7, its chimes clear in the morning air. The shadows of St. Augustine's retreated, and Cambridge stirred awake, its secrets laid bare. Justice was served, and the truth at last stood revealed. The game was over, and the little gray cells had won.